Oh, yes, we're back for another live stream. Today, we're going to be revealing any new changes to our teams, but also we're going to be answering your questions. We are here for you, Dean. Early start for you in San Diego this morning.
Yeah, you can probably tell the room's still a bit dark. 6 a.m. The sun should come up in San Diego around now, I reckon.
Okay.
So this room will probably get brighter throughout the recording. I'll tell you what, mate. I've been playing with this team a lot.
Oh,
I've been
God.
playing with my team a lot. Because do you know what was happening? I was getting quite annoyed, actually, and I hadn't even realised it. But if there is a template to be had at this stage, my team was fast heading in that direction. And
And you
that's
hate a
not...
template.
That's just not why I play this game. And because
Mm.
we've been doing so many shows, because we've been doing so many conversations, you just start going towards these must-have picks and having all these things that are expected of you at this stage of the season when it is all speculative. And like, I was literally thinking to myself 2 days ago, why am I playing this game? It's because I play FPL because it's fun and because I like watching football and spotting things and thinking, oh, I reckon he's going to bang actually, and get him in my team and trusting that instinct.
Yeah.
And I was going well away from that. And so I completely changed my team. Completely. Now it's still got Salah and Haaland in it. And I'm still being like sensible with what I'm doing. But I'll give you an example of someone that I've thrown in. Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin is suddenly in my team because I'm watching Everton.
Was he 6 million?
It's 6 million.
He's cheap, isn't it? Yeah.
And I'm like, Everton start at home. Everton have actually looked quite sharp, especially in attack during pre-season. Calvert-Lewin is going to play every single game until he gets injured. And I'll take him out when he gets injured. But until that moment, Calvert-Lewin is as good a pick as Solanke potentially. Why can't he be as good as and I'm like, I'm going for it. Like I'm not going down this pathway. And also I was like, what is the point also of me picking the same teams as you and Bigman? That is absolutely
Doesn't
not
make for good
on the show.
content, does it?
Yeah.
DCL, I mean, injuries don't bother me at all. Like, especially at the start of the season, you put in players, and then if they get injured, you sell them. Just like if they get suspended, you sell them, or if they lose their form, you sell them. But Everton looking sharp and free flowing in attack. It's Sean Dyche we're talking about. I mean, maybe we don't get many goals, but pre-season, you're right. They haven't looked bad. They haven't looked bad at all.
They haven't looked bad at all, mate.
The only Everton player in my team will be a defender, mate. Sean Dyche, lockdown.
Yeah, and that's fine, and I understand that, but like, I can't pronounce his name, but Tim Iriogbenum, who they've signed as their midfielder, he looks really good.
Yeah.
If you're looking at guys like Harrison and McNeil, this team has had a year together where they've just like really had to struggle because of the points deduction, and they haven't got that this season. I don't know. I just think that there's a chance they're better, and for the sake of that third forward, I'm like,
you can have a punt with the third forward, can't you? You can have
especially
a punt.
At this stage.
Muniz would still be punty. Like, Muniz isn't actually going to be in many teams. He won't be in mine or Bigman's.
There is no way that Calvert-Lewin is more of a risk than putting Muniz in my team at this stage. There's absolutely no way.
There we go. Well, look, you can see Dean's team on Friday's stream. We were doing a deadline stream on Friday, so stay tuned for that. FPL team says DCL is dodgy calves and legs, as he's always injured. DCL, love that. Dean's been on the brandy. DCL, Odegaard, or Solanke, Eze. Nicholas, we'll get to your question in a second. We're going to be flashing up all questions. This is about you guys today's stream, but we also want to keep it structured. If we just do half an hour or 45 minutes of your random questions, you're all going to turn off, aren't you? You're all going to turn off. So what we'll try and do is address the big questions first, and then we'll bring up the individual stuff. So the big questions, I think and Big Man is on his way, guys. Don't go anywhere, because Big Man Backer, former world number 4 in FPL, is in the house very, very shortly. And I guess we want to keep some of these discussions points for when he's here. We want to talk captaincy. We still want to touch on Salah, yes or no. In terms of experts teams, and this is a term I don't use to describe myself, but some might. Haaland is in around 95%. Like, he's up there. Salah is in around 40%. So there's still a ton of engaged managers. CH, trust me, if we flash up all your random questions and do 45 minutes of that, we'll have 100 views by the end of the show, max. It just, you're not interested in knowing if Gary in Ipswich wants to pick Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Beto. Like, you're not going to watch that content. I guarantee. Should we try it? Let's do the structured stuff. So let's do Salah, no Salah. Let's do captaincy. Let's do also the big at the back discussion with Arsenal, because Dean, when we look at the best defense from last season, Arsenal are head and shoulders. Arsenal are the best defense. Yeah, I don't have an Arsenal defender in my team, and I don't think Big Man does either.
Why though? Why?
Isn't it? They got two good home games in the first three as well. They'll keep a clean sheet against Wolves and Brighton, will they?
I don't know about. I don't know. I don't know if it's for definite, because I think actually Wolves are looking pretty sharp. But this is probably the best defence in the league for next season going into the campaign. I will definitely have an Arsenal defender, and I tell you what, I still think that Zinchenko for the beginning of the season isn't the worst bet in the world to have as a starter. So I think that there still has to be big consideration around having an Arsenal defender. And I know you guys are against this, but I also still think that David Raya as a goalkeeper is something that I'm going to end up with at some stage during the season. He saved me last season in terms of actually starting to get me goalkeeper points. And then I could just forget it. I just left it alone. But that's quite a big one if you're both overlooking Arsenal defenders. I'd have thought Saliba would be a template pick, and I thought you and Big Man would be going pretty template.
I'm surprised Big Man's not gone there, I'm not going to lie. And I'll say that to his face, because that sounded really confrontational. No, I'm surprised Big Man hasn't gone there, because I know how hot he is on the Arsenal defence, but I also know how hot he is on Trent. And I think the key thing here is Trent. I think that's the spoiler. It's Trent is 7 million. And in last year, we had to pay 8.5 for Trent. The year before, I think maybe 8, like Trent, or 7.5. He's not been this cheap in a while. And Trent looks like he's going to be a defender that keeps more clean sheets under Slot than he did Klopp. And he looks like he'll still get attacking returns. So when you compare a 6 million Gabriel Saliba, sure, they're going to keep clean sheets, but they don't come with that big ceiling that a Trent does. And you've only got to find a million. And then obviously Guardiola exists. He's also 6 million and very, very good. And City are also a good defence. So it's tough when you compare Guardiola and chuck Trent into the mix as well. But I still think, like, if I was allowed to enter two teams, I would have another team with double Arsenal defence. Like, I do think that's still a very, very good play. I just slightly prefer the other play of chasing upside with defenders like Trent.
So in that case, take on to Smoothie's question here, best Liverpool triple up. Perhaps that's what he wants to be heading for. Now, if you've got Trent, then you've been talking about Kwanzaa as the best 4.5 pick in the game. That means you're going two of those picks in the Liverpool defence, technically. And then there's one more spot up for grabs.
Yeah, exactly. I think Kwanzaa's also changed the way we think about defences. It's like we get a top 3 defender for 4.5 million from a top 3 club. Big Man is in the house. Big Man, we've been talking about you. I've been talking about you. Did you hear me in my say? I'm surprised that you don't have a Arsenal defender in your team.
Hi, Gianni. Hi, Dean. Hello, welcome to all the listeners viewers. I mean, I have had them since the game started, but unfortunately, because I had to make a compromise for Haaland. Something had to give, and obviously the Arsenal defender was the sacrifice. I mean, they're an elite defense. I expect them to be really good value over the course of the season. It's just that I'm sort of just hoping that because 3 of their first 5 fixtures have Villa, Spurs, and City, I'm just hoping that they can see it in those fixtures. And if they keep like 2 clean sheets out of 5 or even 3, that's not the end of the world when you can sort of cover them with other defenses with more appealing fixtures. So I'm sort of hoping that in the first 5 or 6 game weeks I can get away with it. I haven't completely still ruled out the idea though. I mean I could, for example, downgrade Trent if I need the cash to Gabriel.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, but you've had Trent in your team since day one. We're not approaching 24 hours within the deadline and you're taking Trent out of your team, are we? You're not. You wouldn't do that.
No. It's something which is very unlikely, but let's say if something comes up before the deadline, I need 1 million, then it's something that I might consider. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to start with Trent.
Yeah, me too. Carlos says, I'm going double Jota and Diaz for the first 2 weeks. So let's talk a little bit, I guess, about Liverpool attackers. What do we think of that? Big Man, he looked good, Diaz, in that Community Shield game, but it was just one game, and Gakpo does exist and can play on the left. everyone will say about Jota being a rotation risk. You could argue Diaz is equally as much a rotation risk as Jota. I mean, Jota's a lock for me, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think Jota is actually more output driven, and he tends to be in more better positions to score goals. He basically scores more than Diaz. So if you're picking your poison, I would rather go with Jota. I think 2 is definitely more than what I'd recommend, because having 1 is enough. And even Jota, I think, could be a risk after, let's say, a few weeks, and once the Champions League kicks in. He may be 1 or 2 bad performances away from getting dropped, but he'll start the season, and if he does well, then he'll keep his spot. So I think Jota is more of a calculated gamble, but picking 2, I think, is a bit overkill.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. Dean, what's your take there on Diaz and the rumours? We've seen it all summer. You've mentioned his agent at play, but we constantly see it. Yesterday it was linked with Man City. Like, Diaz, is he legit like an option to be leaving Liverpool?
Yeah, because he's clearly been trying to work towards something. First there was Barcelona, and now it's Man City that's been on the agenda. So if it's not him, it's his agents. And I'm always skeptical of a player and what their true intentions are. Maybe it's just a new contract. It could be as simple as that. But it's something you'd like cleared up, obviously, as a Liverpool fan first and foremost, but secondly, probably as an FPL player. I agree with Bigman. I don't think Luis Diaz is the player to be going for from that Liverpool rotation at this point. And personally, I've got Salah, so I'm not even contemplating anybody else from Liverpool attack at this point.
Yeah.
And I think at the same price point, Jota makes a lot more sense personally to be relying on, because he's going to be starting that first game of the season. His goal threat is huge. To be honest, his goal threat is as big as Salah's. The only difference is that he's not taking penalties. So that's literally the only difference between those two players. And Salah's probably not worth the extra 5 million just because he takes penalties, but over the course of the season, it might be. We've got our first super chat in here from Ibrahim. Thank you very much, mate. He says Bruno, Murillo, Robinson, or Garnacho, Munoz, and Gabriel. Take a second to get your head around that while I'm saying the question, and I'll throw it back to you, G, and then you can ask Bigman as well.
Yeah, I mean, Murillo is someone that I've thought about a lot. I think Forest is a good 4.5 option, and Robinson too. So I guess I quite like that, but Garnacho could have a breakthrough year. Like, genuinely rate Garnacho to maybe
really good,
shine. And he's 6.5. That's 2 million cheaper than Bruno. Now, they are two very big defensive upgrades, Munoz and Gabriel on Robinson and Murillo. And you could argue, yes, Bruno is better than Garnacho, but is he 2 million better? I'll probably say for the latter, just because I like those defenders a lot. Back up.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on whether he has to play Murillo and Robinson every week. If he has to play Moreno and Robinson every week, then that's not ideal, and I'd rather go with the other option. I think it's more balanced. But if he's sort of rotating these guys, and if he's fine with the rotation, then I prefer Bruno over Garnacho. I think Bruno is miles ahead of Garnacho as a pick. I think Garnacho could be a good enabler, even at the start of the season, but he's a bit of a risk, right? But overall, if he has to play those players, then I prefer the Garnacho combo simply because it's more balanced.
Fair. Is he still in your team, Bruno?
Yeah, he is. My team hasn't really changed from the previous recording on Monday.
Mine neither. I've made one potential change, and that's my fifth defender. Instead of Harwood Bellis, I'm looking at Johnson of Ipswich. I just was looking at the Ipswich fixtures. Oh yeah, neither are going to play for me.
That's so boring. This is
basically your way of clickbaiting people before the deadline. I've just upgraded my Game Week 1 draft, and turns out you just sold Harwood Bellis for
my video dropping tomorrow morning is I've ripped up my team and started again. Huge changes to Gianni's FPL team. Stay tuned and watch for more changes. And then as the video goes on, you're like, this is the same team. Oh no, he's changed. He's got Ben Johnson in instead of Harwood Bellis. Guys, thank you for hitting those buttons. At the moment, you're not hitting the like and you're not hitting the subscribe. So maybe you're not enjoying it, or maybe you just need that little reminder. So guys, please do hit the buttons if you fancy and support the channel. Ziad says, no City, triple Liverpool and Arsenal. How risky could this be? Gosh, Ziad, I am big on those teams you mentioned. I think that's no City is
suicide.
Because if you don't have Haaland, there's no argument to say you don't need Haaland, but still cover the City attack. Like go for Bobb or have Foden ready for game week 2, but no City at all.
No City at all is crazy. I mean, this is the team that's probably going to win the league. That you might be slightly put off by Chelsea away first game of the season. I don't think you need to be, but you might be. But then you just got to look beyond that. Ipswich, West Ham, Brentford, like that. Those 3 games alone, like you're mad if you're not looking ahead a little bit just to think about what you need, even if it's just for that second game against Ipswich at home. That's 5 or 6-0. So like you're going to be missing out on a Gvardiol clean sheet. You're going to be missing out on a Haaland hat-trick, or you're going to be missing out on Oscar Bobb putting in his first star boy appearance of the Premier League season. There's so many things that are going to be there for Man City. I don't think you need loads, but at least one Man City is probably going to be necessary if you want to be competitive, I'd say, in those early weeks.
Yeah. Question from Blues fan here for you, Baka.
Yeah, Eze and Muniz or Solanke and ESR. I'd go with Eze and Muniz. I'm very high on Eze. I think if you compare Eze with Solanke, I prefer Eze. I actually like ESR more than Muniz, but I think the gap between Eze and Solanke is bigger than the gap between Muniz and ESR. I think that's really close. I'm sure Dean will be able to elaborate better because he's a Fulham fan. But I think I'm sort of struggling to pick a standout Fulham talisman. As much as I'd want to invest in their attack, I would assume Smith Rowe would be the best pick, but I don't think the difference between Smith Rowe and Muniz will be very big or significant.
Yeah, I'd definitely go Smith Rowe personally. I mean, I think he's coming at a good price point, which is quite easy to fit into your team. Everybody's got pretty much a 5.5 spot that's up for grabs. And if you look beyond Fulham's first game of the season, they've got a really nice run. Even at Old Trafford, though, with Smith Rowe and the way that he's running beyond the last man, he's making these third man runs that have led to him scoring twice already during pre-season. I think he's a great asset in the game. So yeah, it's difficult if I was comparing to Eze. Like I can't, like Eze is the better pick in the game, but he's a bit cheaper and he is going to be Fulham's star player. Like everything's going to go through Smith Rowe, and there's big expectations for him.
There we go. Nuclear, we'll answer your question in a sec. Guys, we're going to turn our attention in a minute to some structure on Salah and captaincy as well. But let's answer some questions as in the chat. Is a Forest goalkeeper better than Henderson? I don't think we need to say a Forest goalkeeper. I think we know who the Forest goalkeeper is. And everyone will tell me that, oh, he's a risk. Maybe, but he starts the season. Miguel has been signed. He's 6'8", and he's not even played pre-season.
He's 6'8".
Yeah. 6'8", Brazilian. But Matt Sells, who is rubbish, is clearly the number one. Matt Turner, who's rubbish, is not the number one.
I love that you're just sat here calling Premier League footballers rubbish.
I'm in one of those moods today, mate. Matt Sells is a legit option. If you like the fixtures, I guarantee he's starting game week 1, like his first choice. And yes, he might get dropped if he has a bad game. If he's having loads of bad games, you're probably selling him anyway. Ali, who for me is the best manager in the world, finished 215th and then first. He's gone Matt Sells as his one and only 4.5 keeper. I think that probably settles that argument.
I'd also like to add at this point that while I do think that Sells is a bit risky because of the fact that you mentioned that he's not good enough, the backup that they've just bought, Miguel, he's played 20 games over his professional career, and the guy's been playing since 2018. He's played 20 games in 7 years. He hasn't played much at all. Right? He hasn't played much at all. I mean, he may be 6'8", but I mean,
but he doesn't
on
play.
The field to utilize exactly. He hasn't played much at all, right? So I don't know. I mean, are you sure that there's nothing going on with the goalkeeper signing for Forest? I think they may be looking at Ramsdale or anyone of the sort.
Yeah, I mean, Ramsdale and Johnson are both two very good keepers that are maybe up for grabs. But if we're talking game week 1, I think there's a lot of ifs and buts.
Yeah, not in game week 1, but not in game week 1. But
we're picking Eze, and he could end up leaving. Like, there's lots of players that could end up leaving in the last few weeks of the window. Yeah. I think it's unlikely, and I think if Sells plays, like Sells is he Austrian? I think he was Austria's first choice in the Euros, wasn't he? Like Sells played in the, is he Belgian? Did he play for? I can't remember. He played in the Euros, so he can't be that bad.
Yeah, it's just off-putting, not knowing exactly who it is. They seem like they're going to have a lot of goalkeepers in a few weeks' time.
Like Chelsea.
Like 4 goalkeepers, yeah. So I'd probably just unless they sign like Johnston tomorrow, and you know that he was going to be their number one, I'd probably just stay away from Forest as your goalkeeper pick. I think there's enough out there at 4.5 that means that you don't need to be worrying about who Nottingham Forest goalkeeper is. The lad school says, is Bobb nailed for the first 2 game weeks? He has to be, doesn't he? There's no way that you play this well in every game during pre-season and are then left out. There's no way. Oscar Bobb will definitely start.
Game week 1. He could miss out on 2, but you'd be shocked.
I don't think he would on 2, because I'd say that that's the game that even more would be used to give him that elevation and confidence. Home match against Ipswich, that's what he's there for, surely more than Chelsea away. So yeah, I think Bobb's very, very reliable pick. I'll be honest, I still don't know I'm necessarily going to have him in my team.
Okay,
I still don't know that I'll pick him.
He's a lock for me,
but he's obviously a really good contender to be there at that price point. Yeah.
What do we think of Bobb versus Nkunku? A lot have got this dilemma. Baka, let me come to you. If you've got to bench one of them, who do you bench game week 1? Personally, I'm benching Nkunku and I'm starting Bobb.
I don't think there's much between them. The Rodri news might swing it for me. If Rodri hasn't trained, and if Rodri is out, then I would have.
Rodri's not going to be starting the season. I mean, I've been told that for a little while.
I don't think he will.
No.
Yeah, and in which case I may go Nkunku, I think. I'd like to sort of add to this discussion regarding Bobb as well. I'm not as confident as you guys regarding whether he'll start in game week 2, because I mean Pep may throw Bernardo in. It's not exactly a game where he would want control as such. So my guess would be that he'd play Bobb, but I'm not as confident. What's pertinent is that game is on Saturday, and there's every chance that we find out before the deadline, exactly, as to who is starting, right? In which case, I just think it significantly increases the appeal of Bobb, because then you just know that if he's playing, you play him, and if he's not, you just bench him. The only sort of point I'd like to add here is that I think it's too risky picking him as a 7th attacker, but as an 8th attacker, I think he's perfectly fine. Okay, so adding to the discussion further, I think a very popular question in the community is regarding Rodgers versus Bobb. So which way would you guys go and why?
No doubt for me, it's Bobb's the standout 5 or 5.5 because he plays for the team that scores the most goals. And if he starts, and if you're willing to gamble on those minutes, which I always am, and I am on Bobb, he's a front 3 player for the best attack in the league, and he's 5 million. It's madness. Honestly, I'd be considering paying 6 million for Bobb. That's not even close.
Look, that's not the issue. We know City are a much better team than Villa. We're talking about minutes here. Who's expected to play the more minutes?
But the issue is risk and reward, isn't it? I'm fully aware the minutes are a risk, but because that reward is so high, because City are the best attack in the league, that does matter, because you could give me 60 minutes of Bobb or 90 minutes of Rodgers, and I'd take 60 of Bobb all day long.
Yeah, I mean, look,
hypothetically, Gianni, just one point I'd like to make. Hypothetically, even if we have Nkunku and Bobb and get that benching decision wrong, I don't think that will matter as much. Imagine you bench Bobb, it's fine. It's 1 week, and he gets something. The guy will rocket in price before Ipswich at home. I mean, he could be 5.1, 5.2 before the game week 2 deadline, because this is the time where managers are very, very engaged. They will look at City starting player home to Ipswich. They'll all jump on him like crazy, right? So that's something that is sort of playing on my mind.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, that is definitely something that will probably happen. I've got a couple of friends that support Villa who have watched all of preparation for the season, and they're like, Rodgers is flying. They're like, he will be overlooked in this game because he's just not as much of a glamorous pick as picking Oscar Bobb and other players in and around that price. So I haven't seen how highly owned he is right now, but
I think he's a proper differential still.
I think he will be.
I think he's probably 3%, and Bobb's probably 2%. They're both real differentials.
I think he's close to 8%, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he that high? I'm surprised at that.
Yeah, he's 8%. 7.9. I just checked. 7.9.
Still,
that's higher than I would have thought. But I would imagine as we get closer, Bob will.
Yeah, Bob's
People
only going to go
rally
up
for
in
Bob.
ownership.
Yeah, I
Rodgers
think
could
people
drop.
will rally for Bob because every team that you'll see, every expert that's talking, who's your outside pick, who could do well, and everyone's like Bob. So yeah, I think a lot of people will end up going there because your casual player these days, I'm pretty sure, is just starting to go on an expert's team and just copy and paste it, which is annoying. I was thinking this the other day, like there'll be some people out there who have put in absolutely zero effort during the summer and will just, like, for example, go and look at one of your two teams,
and
on
just Friday,
copy and paste it and be like, that'll do. I'll start the season with that, then I'll start picking it myself from next week.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking.
like to-
I was thinking about making a video for like an idiot's guide to FPL for all the casuals on Friday, and then I thought, no, the casuals don't want to watch how to play. They probably just want to watch Big Man's team reveal.
They
You know
literally
what I mean?
just want to watch the team. They won't even watch the video. They will go to the video and then they'll fast forward to the
To the
last
team.
4 minutes.
Yeah,
They can
that's
just see
right.
the
That's right.
screenshot.
This is true. I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends do that. A lot of my friends do it. They do not bother watching the podcast. All they do is scroll up to the point where I'm talking about my team, screenshot the team, copy paste it. Thank you very much. That's it.
100%. 100%. You're being robbed left, right, and centre, you two.
Look, Big Man finished 4th in the world, so if you're going to copy anyone's team, it's the way to go. To be fair,
Pete's copying me. Oh, Pete, top man. Yeah,
you can copy Dean's.
Gianni,
There's
Gianni,
that auto pick button on the website. That's Dean's team.
Gianni, I'd like to sort of touch upon Rodgers as well. The fixtures for Villa are great after game week 2. I mean, they're as good as they get, right?
And we
From
can't
game
get
week
to
3
Watkins,
onwards.
so Rodgers is good cover, isn't he?
Yeah, we're unlikely to sort of get to Watkins. So he's great cover, number one. The only sort of issue is I sort of don't want to tunnel vision myself into just the Ipswich fixture for Bob, because I genuinely feel that after that fixture, let's say if he doesn't perform well, then he could easily be out of the team by game week 3. I mean, I'm not even sure he'll be there in game week 2, but I mean, for devil's advocate purposes, he may not even be there game week 3, right? So, do we really want to risk the minutes, right? Are we overlooking Rodgers, who's I would say Rodgers is more nailed for minutes. I mean, I think
definitely.
he's done enough he's done enough to be in the Villa team for the first 3 or 4 weeks.
Agree.
The potential rotation may kick in for both Bobb or Rodgers after the Champions League starts, because Villa are in the market for a Diaby replacement as well, so that may affect some minutes.
Yeah.
But these are the sort of factors in my head, and I don't really think there's a clear-cut decision. I think you just go with your gut, honestly. It's not one where you can sort of decide on the basis of logic or rationale. It's a very tricky one.
I completely agree with that. And in all my videos, where yes, I will big Bob up till the cows come home, and he's 100% a lock for me, that doesn't mean I think everyone watching should buy Bob. He will be there for some managers and not others. And he's not a standard and clear, in a way, obvious pick over the other fives. Like, if you can find 0.5, Smith Rowe and Minter are both very, very good assets. Yeah. Kamada too at 5.5. At 5 million, Rodgers is also amazing. There's a wealth of good players in that 5.5 to 5 million bracket. And Bob's my favourite because it's the way I play the game. He isn't standing in the way for everyone. Like, good pick, but there's other options.
Yeah, Minte is such a good pick. He's such a good pick.
And it's just those fixtures are tough, but I think he'll score goals. I think Brighton will score against anyone.
Mate, they play such good football. Obviously, because they've got a new coach, it is a little bit difficult to commit to backing them. But everything I know about this coach is that he's very forward thinking. He's very smart. The style of play is going to be good. And Minte is going to get so much space to explode into, and he's going to be looking for a massive season. And he will, especially for the first few weeks of the season, be playing week in, week out. So I'm making strong consideration for not picking Bob, not picking Rodgers, and picking Minte, based on and that really is based on a lot of what I've been seeing, but also I was reading some Brighton stuff just to see what they've been making as performances, and they're all just kind of blown away by
best player pre-season.
There's always a Brighton player that does this, and I said the other day, like, he might be like our Solly March of this season.
And Ciso, they
What's happened to Mitoma? Do you remember him?
Yeah, I know. He actually looked good in that last pre-season friendly as well. I was thinking, that front four of kind of Welbeck, João Pedro 9 and 10, and then the wide men of Matoma Minter. That is a good front four.
Yeah,
and they're going to keep clean sheets too, which is why Barco's so good. Like, I really like Brighton. I did a predictor, 20 teams predicted in the table, and I put Brighton 8th. I genuinely think they could finish 8th. I think they could be the standout kind of from the mid-bracket teams.
I completely agree. I mean, Minter's stats in the Eredivisie, they were crazy. I mean, he got like 17 returns in I think 19 or 20 starts, something like that. So his numbers are crazy.
He was genuinely gonna like, if Howard kept him at Newcastle, they didn't have to sell him for financial reasons. He wanted him to start this season. Like, he wanted him on the right side. That's how good he thought he was. And he was really disappointed that they had to sell him in the end, but was like, okay, well, I don't want to lose Anthony Gordon to Liverpool right now. Like, if that's the choice we've got, then he'll have to go to Brighton. But yeah, really difficult. I just want to quickly address something that's popped up in the chat from RTJ. He says, is Solanke truly worth it, especially if Sonny has pens? Now, I have got a guy checking out for me who's actually going to be on pens.
Oh, yeah, we all want to know this, mate. This is a huge one.
Well, it was funny because he said, look, my hunch is it'll be Son. He said, but bear in mind, Tottenham don't get penalties anyway. Last season, we didn't get penalties. So
yeah, neither do Bournemouth. Solanke barely takes any either.
And he said that is a good point, though. He said, I'll try to get an answer for you on that before the deadline. So hopefully by Friday's deadline, I do have a better idea of who is on pens. But yeah, this guy's a good insider for Tottenham, and he said he was going to try for it, but his hunch was that it would be Son. And if it is Son, is Solanke a good pick?
Yeah, I think so, because Big Man got so many points from Richarlison last year, and it was like, you just know whoever's number 9 for Spurs gets tons of chances. They funnel a lot to their number 9, and there's a lot of creativity in that team, even Porro and Udogie, but Maddison and the wide men if Kulu's on the pitch or Sonny. Baka, you're still hot on. I know Solanke's not on your team, but you still think he's a good pick, right? A very good pick.
Yeah, I think he's a very solid pick, and I won't let the ownership of Son influence my selection. So if you have Son, I think you can still have Solanke. It's fine.
Yes, I'm on the double up.
I don't think you should sort of look at it that way. Spurs are a very good team, and their fixtures are good, right? So it's not as if, you know, we were discussing on Mente earlier. I think one of the reasons why Mente is not as popular is because a lot of people have João Pedro in their drafts, and João Pedro is actually 18% owned. I was having a look at the FPL ownership. Gosh. So a lot of people don't want to double up on the Brighton attack, and you can sort of see why, because some of their opening fixtures aren't great. They're playing Arsenal, for example, in game week 3. But for Spurs, it's actually different, right? Spurs have a very good run of fixtures, and if you want to double up on the attack, by all means do it.
Okay, yeah. I can't remember what I was going to say. Mind blank.
Let's go through this. Let's do some quick fire ones just to make sure we're covering everybody's questions. Luke, Vardiol or Saliba? I've been yo-yoing between those two. At the moment, I have gone back to Saliba, but I can't guarantee I won't be back on Vardiol by the deadline. Big Man, which way would you go with those two, and why?
I think I would probably go with the Arsenal defender. A, because their defensive underlying data last season was better, and B, because I expect them to be safer for starts than Guardiola. And the third, because I'm not even sure Guardiola will be as attacking as he was last season. I sort of have my doubts regarding his positioning. And the Arsenal centre-backs, I mean, they're crazy from set pieces. Very recently, we saw a friendly where both Gabriel and Saliba scored in the same game, right? So Rice takes the corners, and they're just pinpoint accurate. So I would go with an Arsenal defender over a City one, if that's the question. I think it's a very tough one, and it comes down to personal preference. It's not a clear-cut decision, but yeah, I prefer the Arsenal defense.
Yeah, I have to say that did swing me a little bit, seeing the way that Rice is swinging those set pieces over for the centre backs to Nottingham. I know that's not going to work every single week, and people will figure it out, but it's still something that they have in the locker, and if they'll use alternative means to be getting the ball onto his head.
Ibrahim's question about Gordon or Jota over Eze is tough. Like, Gordon versus Eze is a dilemma I've still got for my team. That's the one slot is like up for grabs, but I think I'll end up on Gordon, and Jota's stand out. Solanke or Kai? I mean, there's 0.5 difference, but Kai, if you look at the first three, it's got great fixtures. Oh, Kai, Havertz versus Jesus isn't even a topic. Jesus probably won't start in the first three games. Like Kai is clearing away the first choice number 9, and he will continue to play 9 unless Arteta throws a curveball for one random game where he thinks he needs Havertz in the middle of the park. But
I have heard it's plausible. Have heard it.
For occasional fixtures, though, right?
Well,
I'd eat my
the guy
hat if he
mentioned
didn't.
Wolves specifically to me as a game.
Did he?
When, yeah, he did, and he was because I was said, oh,
makes sense then. Makes sense as to why Jesus played up front in that preseason game only 2 games ago.
Exactly. He said there is logic behind it. He said it wouldn't be a massive surprise. He said if Havertz was playing as an 8 and Jesus was playing as a 9.
Okay. Wow, I take it back then. Maybe it's just for that fixture Arteta's got in mind.
But I just see it's going to be. I just imagined it was going to be Partey, Rice, Odegaard as that middle three for the opening game of the season.
Until they sign. Yeah,
until they then sign Marino, and then they start to become a little bit different in terms of the way they function.
Enough to put you off, Kai, though, hearing that rumour.
Yeah, it totally was. I was like, okay, to be honest, I'm just not going to touch either of them. But Gabby Jesus, if he ends up playing the 9 against Wolves at home first day of the season, and you've got him, that might reap rewards.
Yeah, you'd need team news to go there. Question from Liam for Baka. Bruno related.
Sorry, Gianni, I missed you.
Go Bruno or Jota? Worth the extra million.
Tough.
So
it's
I know
tough.
These are 2 players you're so close to.
Yeah, I mean, if they were the same price, I would say Bruno in a heartbeat. But that 1 million makes it very tricky for me to answer. I would still edge towards Bruno, but I think it's 55-45 in favor of Bruno. I'm still not fully confident, but it's just the X-Men's which swayed for me.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for all your questions.
What are your thoughts? I assume you'd say Jota.
Yeah, save the mill.
Yeah, because you have him in your team.
But that's because I've got him in my team. And it's so biased. I often get asked like questions, we all do, like going to the deadline, just going to get so many questions. And it's really difficult because it's like, if they're not in your team, you probably don't think they're good enough. Like we pick 15 players and we're wed to those 15 by game week 1. So it's difficult when you're talking about like, do I pick X who I own and Y who I don't? Well, obviously it's just the guy that's in my team because I've already got that sort of loyalty. I've overthought it a ton. Guys, do hit the buttons. If you fancy hitting that subscribe button, that'd be amazing. And obviously like the stream. Amrit, one for you, Dean. Son Solanke then.
He's going to make 2 transfers by game week 2, I'm guessing.
No. Just pick Haaland and Bobb from the off. Like Chelsea is a good fixture.
Yeah, I don't
like booking in the transfers anyway.
Especially at that point, you know.
What a dreadful idea that is.
I honestly don't think I don't think that that's necessary at all. And then you've got the danger of, you know, as we talked before, if Bobb and Haaland have slightly both, can Haaland go up? I don't know. But if Haaland suddenly rises to 15.1, Bobb rises like to 5.1 or 0.2 as well, like you are absolutely screwed and you can't get there. And they've got Ipswich at home and you can't reach them. Like there's no point taking that risk. Nobody else is doing. Not many people anyway will be looking at that strategy.
Yeah, booking in 2 transfers for game week 2 with a hit, it seems madness. Bobb or Minte or Nkunku. I mean, if you can only have one, Nkunku, but you're spending more money. Jota or Gordon, Jota just. Thank you for your questions. We can do a couple of quick fire if that's the way we want to go, or we can go back to some more general topic stuff. We'll follow what's on screen. Guys, thank you for your questions. There was one from Maliki. Maliki's one of my channel members, so I've always got to answer his questions anyway. But Dean, this is a huge question, the biggest of the show today. Maliki says, what does Dean miss most about England?
What do I miss most about England? I'll tell you what, there hasn't been that much to miss recently, that's for sure. It's honestly, it's really that you just don't know anyone here as well as you know everybody back in England. Like, it's not just the obvious things like your family. But it's like, even the other day, I was like, oh, I just don't bump into anybody that I know. I've started, like the kids started school this week. And so we started to like meet people at school and stuff. So there are a few faces now and stuff that I know. But I was like you don't go to like the supermarket and just like bump into anyone. Like,
you don't bump into any famous footballers like you usually
No, I've not seen a single footballer, mate. So that's gone as well. Miss it all.
How many times have you heard, oh my God, I love your accent?
Well, the funny thing is people keep thinking I'm Australian.
Why
like,
is that? I always get that too.
Why is it the go-to that you're Australian rather than English? I don't understand that.
I've always got that. I used to work on cruise ships and it was all American guests. And for 2 years, that's all I heard. Are you Australian?
I just don't understand it. I don't understand why that's the presumption rather than just you're English.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Pretty says, "Do I alter my accent?" He had to. Honestly, there are becoming times when
You're
I'm
going to have a
having
twang,
to.
mate. You're going to have a
Because
twang.
if I ask for an iced water, for example,
Water.
the person just looks at me like I have no idea what you just said. If you go, "Can I have an iced water?" Fine. My kids looked at me the other day.
Here you go. Here's
that.
2 liters of it with 3 straws.
Honestly, yeah. I was like, "Can I have a pepperoni pizza? Can I have this? Can I get 2 iced waters?" And my kids were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "It's honestly just easier this way, kids. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous. That is not a good American accent, but they haven't asked me to repeat it, and that is what I'm looking for."
Yes, love that. Super chat come in. Who's João Pedro, Saka
and Munoz, or Solanke, Bruno, and Robinson. I prefer the first. I think.
Oh, go on, Baka. Go, you go. Do you?
I prefer the first. It depends on the structure, to be very honest. If he does not have any premium mid in the structure, then I prefer the first, because I think having at least one premium mid is sort of a necessity, because you'd want to sort of jump back and forth between Saka, Palmer, maybe Salah. So I sort of prefer that.
Thank you for all your super chats. That's very generous of you guys. It does guarantee we'll answer your question. Jonathan says about Osimhen, this is one for you, Dean, but one for Big Man and me first in terms of if he comes, what do you reckon his price will be? And then, Dean, you can update on whether or not you think he signs. Let us know in the chat or put a number in. I reckon I would say if he comes in, he'll be
10?
9 million. Yeah,
9.
I actually think because Palmer's so expensive and Chelsea is so dysfunctional. I mean, if he was signing for Arsenal, I think he'd be 11. But because he's signing for Chelsea, I think he could be 9. But yeah. You think maybe double digits?
You can't put Osimhen in the game below 10. I can't believe that he can be below 10.
But Chelsea are so dysfunctional and rubbish.
Not if they sign him.
There's a point. Yeah.
He's
not on penalties, though. There's no way he takes pens. I mean, he didn't even take all pens at Napoli, but Palmer has pens.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it is very tasty asset. But I think they'd have to price him at 10 to really give you a conundrum in terms of going there. Yeah. So I think that I would definitely be looking at it. I think there's a possibility.
Can't be more than Watkins, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. My hunch was, as soon as you asked the question, 10 just came straight into my head.
But you think the move can happen? Like, the swap deal must be so complex, because swap deals rarely actually happen because it's lots of agents and players you're dealing with. Is it going to happen?
Swap deal, probably not, because Napoli is so adamant that they want money for Osimhen. Yeah, his agent is Lukaku's agent has been kind of pulling his hair out a little bit, because Lukaku's just been stuck at Chelsea and like desperate to get out, and it looks like he will get out and he will end up at Napoli. But like both of those teams are being a bit stubborn about the terms that are needed, despite the fact they both have players that are either they don't want or that don't want to be at the club. So it's a bit like Sancho and Ugarte, like with PSG and Man United. Like, something's got to give, because this isn't going to work out for them at their current clubs, and it's just easier to allow the move to open up somehow. So let's see with Osimhen, but I still think there's a strong chance he joins you.
Okay, there we go. Question from Dan for Big Man. And by the way, Punter, friend of the show, US based, says check out San Diego Uni. It's insane. Dean, top 3 rotating 4.5 defenders. Have you looked at 3? I know you all know the answer to this for 2 sets of rotating 4.5s. Have you looked at it for 3, Baka?
Yes, I have. I have Konza.
That's what you do. That's what you do.
Yeah, I have Konza. The Aston Villa Konza, and before that I had Van der Ven to pair with him. They rotate really well. I've also looked at Mikalenko and Robinson. They rotate well too. But as of now, I think I'm going to go with the Liverpool Konza, and I'm going to go with the Aston Villa Konza, simply because I think that the Liverpool Konza is going to play the first 3 or 4 games for sure. And then even if he gets dropped, the Aston Villa guy can come in, and Aston Villa have great fixtures from game week 3 onwards.
And you are going 2 4.5s, aren't you?
Sorry?
You're going 2 4.5 defenders, not 3.
Yeah, I'm going with 2.
Yeah,
I'm going.
You're going
I-
2. I'm also going 2. I have Lewis Hall and Kwanzaa, who are
Yeah,
pretty much going to be set and forget. But
I
yeah,
have both the Konsas and Barco, and I don't think that will change as much. I'm actually more sort of thinking about my fifth mid as this discussion sort of goes on.
yeah, Jan, we haven't actually addressed Sanchez, and he will start the season likely for Chelsea. He played that last friendly against Inter. 4.5 million. He's not a bad pick. Chelsea will keep some clean sheets, but the way Chelsea have defended pre-season, I just don't have much confidence. I have more confidence in a Palace defence, you know? Therefore, Henderson's the pick for me. Wan-Bissaka, is he being overlooked? Oh, Dean?
Mate.
No, you haven't.
I haven't yet, but I honestly think I was speaking to someone yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Who just to find out about West Ham's plans, because obviously they've had a good transfer window, a very good transfer window in terms of who they signed. And I was like, Wan-Bissaka is like, they love it. It said, like, look out. He said, honestly, he said, I think people will not realise how good Wan-Bissaka ends up being as a sign-in.
Gosh.
Because of the style of play that they're going to impose and what
Lopetegui
Wan-Bissaka adds to it. And I was like...
He doesn't have to do much on the ball the other side of the halfway line, which is what he's not good at.
Yeah. And I was like, that's quite interesting. I think West Ham fans are so excited about what they can achieve. West Ham fans think they're going to come 7th or 8th next season. Like, realistic. They really think that that's where they're heading for the new season. And they've made some really good additions. They've also made a couple that I'm not sure they either needed or they don't know what they're getting. But I think that West Ham are ones to look out for. And actually, I think Wan-Bissaka at 4.5 for a player who's playing every single week at fullback in a team that's going to be functioning pretty well, I actually think it'll be a decent pick.
There we go. Okay, heard it here first. Wanny B. Have you heard the song? Was like, I remember years ago, United fans, or maybe it was Palace fans. I think it was Palace fans. It was, the wingers don't like him. Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, it was Palace, yeah.
I think it was Palace, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I always felt like it was level. I've always dug him out big for a right back that you could just give the ball to and know it's never going to be progressed. Like, I remember teams setting up against Man United, giving Wanny B all the space and time in the world. And Neville pointed it out on Monday Night Football once. He was like, watch these teams. They all just go, no, give it to Wan-Bissaka. Like, they encourage teammates to pass it to Wan-Bissaka as an opposition team by just not pressing him, because they were like, as long as Wan-Bissaka's got the ball, they're not going to score.
Do you know what? In pre-season, Man United and the way they were playing their fullbacks, that he was actually doing it much better during pre-season. Yeah,
He's come on.
They were really like pushing him forward, and they probably knew he wasn't going to be there, but yeah, he actually did all right at it. I'm intrigued.
He's a former winger as well, which always blew my mind. I was like, wow, I thought you were a former goalkeeper, mate. You're a former winger.
Battering people today.
We got a super chat in from Matthew. Nuclear, we'll answer your question in a sec. Matt has asked, big man. Yeah, what do you take of this one? I mean, I think that's Bruno all day long wins that debate. Bruno and João Pedro.
Yeah, that's the combo I've picked in my team as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think what Gibbs White is, even though he was, I still think he's a good pick, but he wasn't taking set pieces in preseason. He's lost set pieces, which isn't ideal. I mean, he might still be on penalties, but I think I would rather go with, let's say, the more solid pick of Bruno.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the same price point, obviously. So
yeah. The Man United defense, I think, is a wait and see. What do you guys reckon? I think it may improve, but I
think it's going to take time. I mean, you've got so many different combinations that they're going to be playing here, and I actually honestly think that over the course of the season, Man United will be improved. But I think there's definitely potential for a bumpy start to the season for Man United. I like their squad, like in terms of where they're fixing it. They're still desperate for that DM though, and if it's, I've said this a few times, if United are starting with Casemiro against Fulham on Friday night, which they probably will be, and they've got a defence that hasn't played together before, then I think Fulham can exploit that. And I think that then you look at the games that they've got beyond that, it's not very easy for United to settle into the season. So I think the first 3 or 4 weeks, I would stay away from United defenders. But beyond that, you start to look at it, and I think that there'll be some good value there once they start to settle.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, we love Kwanzaa. We both got him in our teams, me and Baka. So yeah, good pick. Kwanzaa, Hall, Van der Ven, good defence. I like the first two. I've never been hot on Van der Ven, but Baka, you still think Van der Ven, if you pick for the right fixtures, is a good pick. But it's a part of a rotation.
Part of a rotation, yes, exactly, because Spurs, their defense is not good enough to be trusted every week. So he rotates well with Konza, which is what I was suggesting earlier. Spurs and Villa rotate really well.
Yeah.
Someone said a minute ago, Dean's going rogue. Honestly, I am. Big man, you missed this at the start of the show, but I totally ripped up my team. Because I don't want the show to... I just don't want it to... like, my team was going way too template. It was like I was
All right, so what have you done?
I haven't really completely decided yet, but one of the thing that I did reveal at the start of the show is that as I tore it up, I've gone for the start of the season with Calvert-Lewin.
Calvert-Lewin? Now, where did that come from?
It literally came from... The first thing was that a video came up on Twitter from an Everton fan who was like, hang on a second. If Calvert-Lewin, for as long as Calvert-Lewin's fit, is he one of the most reliable goal scorers in the league? And then I dug a bit deeper and I was looking at like the rotations that are using around Calvert-Lewin, how many minutes he's going to actually play at the start of the season. And you start comparing him to Muniz, you compare him to potentially even Solanke, anyone that's kind of like that third option. He's only picked by 1.7% of people. Everton have got 2 home fixtures in their first 3 against Brighton and Bournemouth. Solanke could easily score in both of those games. He's going to get loads of chances. I know he's going to get injured, but that doesn't matter. I can just get rid of him when he gets injured. And I just want to be a bit... I said to G, I was like, there's no point me sitting here picking the same front 3 as you two have got. And equally, if this was me on my own, just watching football and making picks, I think I would be looking at Calvert-Lewin and thinking, yeah, hang on, he's 6 million for a guaranteed striker in a team that aren't as bad as everybody thinks they are.
Thank you so much.
I know you're not going to pick him, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to pick him.
I mean, of course not. But like the fixtures are there for Everton. It's just that I'm just way too scarred by his injury record. I just can't think that the guy will last for 3 or 4 weeks.
That's fine. I only want him for 3 or 4 weeks because I want him for those 2 home games early on until he gets injured. Like that.
Yeah, he's not injured till he's injured.
He's not injured till he's injured.
That's fine.
And as soon as he is,
as long as you're happy booking in a transfer, it shouldn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah, I don't worry about that. I'm not a content creator.
Yeah. Simon, thank you. Guys, thank you for all the super chats today. Genuinely, I think we've had like 5 or 6. I've been streaming lives on my channel for like a month and probably had 2. So that is amazing. You guys supporting Chasing Green Arrows the way you should be. We bring you live videos 3 times a week, and you clearly want to show us your appreciation. So thank you so much. And obviously, if we can help you with some tips, we'll try as well. So Simon's question is considering upgrading Eze to Gordon.
Yeah, I'd like to add.
Upgrade?
I think he should have written considering downgrading Eze to Gordon. I think it's a downgrade. It's not an upgrade. I think that should be enough to answer. Thanks very much for the super chat.
If they were the same price though, you would be picking Eze, right?
Of course.
See, I think I think I'm picking Gordon over Eze, but I'd be wary. I think Big Man might be right here. I think I'm going heart over head. Zubi's got a question in, Dean, one for you. It includes your boys, Smith Rowe and Muniz.
Pardon me, this is a long one. All right. Option 1, Smith Rowe, João Pedro, rotating, okay, and Hall. Or option 2, Muniz, Munoz, Munex, and Munoz, and Rogers Bobb. I would go with the first one. I think the first one's a much better option. I don't really like Muniz or Munoz as picks, to be honest. I think beyond 1 game week, Smith Rowe, João Pedro, and Hall is just going to bring better returns, and I think they're actually all better players as well. Taking away obviously the potential of Bobb and Rogers, but yeah, I go for the first one.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Really good questions coming in, and you're still watching in your numbers. So when you're hitting those buttons, that means a lot. Thank you for the likes and the subscribes. It's funny seeing in the chat like the two United defenders that have come in and haven't come into the game yet, but we're going to see 2 new additions. But just makes me realise how many Man United fans play FPL. And when United players join the game, they often get a nice bump in ownership, even if they're not good assets, just purely with heart over head decisions. So there is a thing genuinely of United player tax, because they are by clear and away the most popular team in the Premier League. So just be cautious on United defenders, and don't forget that they conceded, I think, more big chances than pretty much any team in the division last year, pretty much. Question
Once they sign that DM, I think that changes. I do.
Maybe,
I think that if they do fix that, if Ugarte, for example, does come in, then I think that helps improve, especially and De Ligt and De Ligt, Martinez,
massive
and
upgrade
Euro
on Evans.
are much different, than having Maguire and Evans, exactly.
Rico Lewis, we all say swerve, I think, on that one. That is a transfer out waiting to happen. That's not quite the Bobb debate. That's that's 50-50. Don't even go there, I think. He could start game week 1, though. Reece, I think he probably does start game week 1, but I don't think you want to be in that mix. And do I think Solanke starts? Well, Ange Postecoglou's told us he's ready to start. Now, it could be mind games, but Postecoglou's pretty transparent, and he said he'll start, and that Monday night matters. He's got an extra few days training. Solanke versus Havertz. I think we all say Solanke just. Trent and Rodgers, or Kwanzaa and Gordon. One for you, big man, this one.
It's tricky. It depends on whether you want to play one every week. If you want to play one every week, I think Kwanzaa plus Gordon might be safer. But overall, I like Trent plus Rodgers for the balance. So I'd pick Trent plus Rodgers.
I didn't realise the Lit was already in the game. He is 5 million.
It's 5 million, yeah. Which I think isn't worth going to when you've got Martinez, for example, at 4.5. I don't see why you go to Lit at 5.
Yeah.
On DCL comment, is he nailed? They brought in Ndiaye. Yeah, I mean, Ndiaye will definitely have an impact around the Everton front line, but Calvert-Lewin is starting the season as the number 9.
Yeah, and Nuclear's nailed it. Postecoglou is honest, and Eddie Howe is the one you want to watch out for. There's a few you want to watch out for. Eddie Howe and Arteta are the worst 2, and probably at number 1 ranked best is actually Postecoglou. So if he says he's going to start, or he's ready to start, he is. He didn't say he is going to start. He says he's ready to start. There are different things. And Kunkuneze, overrated? No, both very good picks. Guys, we're going to be back with another live. Wood or Smith Rowe, Moniz or Hudson? I'll go for... I don't know, as the Smith Rowe option. Guys, thank you for watching. We're going to be back for another Chasing Green Arrows tomorrow. We're not 100% sure what time, so do set that notification bell. It'll be a similar time to this, possibly midday, possibly 1, I think it is. We're also going to be back on Friday for a deadline stream. So come and find us around that deadline. Make Chasing Green Arrows your deadline stream of choice to bring in the new season. We've got a very special guest joining tomorrow if we do go live as well, I think. So, yeah, watch this space. He's been Dean, he's been Big Man, I've been Gianni, and we've been Chasing Green Arrows. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.